Hi, Year 10, and welcome to a bit of a science masterclass on how to revise. One of the things that I noticed in your masterclass assembly was Ms. Knight's talking about preparing for success and starting to think about the beginning of Year 11 now. Most of you should have taken an online assessment this week. Now, that was actually a GCSE paper that we cut up and put into a Google form so that you could take it. And in the science department, we're going to keep doing that. So your assessment at the end of Year 10 will be about the things that you're learning now in terms of physics, as well as some past material that you've done either in Year 9 or 10. So science is a big subject. 6 papers, 7.5 hours when you get to the end of Year 11. And people ask me about how they should revise. People often tell me they've done lots of revision and it hasn't worked. So the idea of this video is to really get you going on going back over some of that material, which is something that you can do at home. So it's something that's ideal to be doing now. So in the folder that is Key Stage 4 revision materials, which I have shared with you all again, one of the things you'll find is these slides called B1 everything, C1 everything, and so on. They give you a list of things that are in that topic. So we're going to look at B1 today. And up on the screen there, that's a list of everything that is in B1. The things that are in red are things that are triple only. So if you're not doing triple, you need to ignore those as you go through. So there's a quick handy list at the beginning. And then as we go through the slides, let me just give you some examples. There's the tick list that you've all seen before. That tells you about the things that you need to be able to do. Now that's the same as the tick list in the prep schedule. And the prep schedule has got questions at the end of it that help you find out whether you actually know these things or not. We've got some YouTube clips as well as some free science lessons clips, and then there's some factual pieces of information in there, so plant and animal cells, specialized cells, and so on. After all those things, we've got some GCSE questions to give you examples of how you'd be tested on this, and we've got the mark scheme so that you can see how you're doing. So one of the things that I suggest you do is that these slides are a good starting point. But what I'm going to do now is go through how I have laid out this revision in the past for my Year 11s. To be able to do that, what you are going to need is a piece of A4 or A3 paper. Okay, so that's going to be quite important to you. Once you've got that, then we can move on. So pause your video now, get a piece of paper, and then I'm going to go through how I would use those slides in the prep schedule to revise.
Okay, so what I showed you a moment ago was the B1 everything introduction slide and then some of the things that are on it. What we need to think about now is what we're actually going to do with all of this information and how we're going to find out that we have effectively revised a topic. So the first thing that I do, if I just get my pens out of the way there, the first thing that I do is I choose the topic I'm going to revise. So today we're just talking about B1. Now, looking at the B1 everything, I need to make sure that I am going to revise everything that is in my B1 topic. I can't do it all at once, obviously, but if I break it down into what I need to know, then that's going to make it a lot easier. So I'm going to begin over here, and the easy bit is cells. Now, often people don't revise cells because they think, gosh, well, that's really easy. There's nothing I need to know. But for example, okay, not only do you need to know what a prokaryotic and a eukaryotic cell are, but you have to be able to describe and compare the differences. This is commonly a 4-mark question, being able to say what is the same and what's different. That's what compare always means in science. We need to be able to do the same, although this is a little bit easier, with an animal and a plant cell. And from there, we need to go on to talk about specialised cells. Now, this is more likely to be a 2 or 3 mark question, and the cells that they want you to know about are red blood cells, sperm cells, nerve cells, xylem and phloem, and we're going to come back to them again because I'm going to show you that a lot of things in biology link, and then root hair cells, and again, we're going to need them again in a minute. Okay, so that's the first part of the topic. Now, the other bit that's there's a required practical, and I make sure that I mark all of my required practicals down because I need to know different things about them. So this required practical is, whoops, I can't spell, microscopes. Now, this can be a 6-mark question. It surprises people, but you have to know the method and you have to know why each part of the method happens in the way that it does. The other thing you have to do is you have to be able to work out magnification. Now, they give you the equation, but what they never do is rearrange it. So always learn it as I am. Image, actual, and magnification, because that is going to allow you to rearrange it. So that's the whole of cells. Now, before I talk about any more of the other topics, if I was going to revise cells, from this, having put it on here, I start to think about what I need to do. So I'm going to need to get that B1 everything sheet, and I'm going to need to get the the B1 prep schedule, and I'm going to need to make flashcards. Flashcards about prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, flashcards about animal and plant, and flashcards about specialised cells, and perhaps one about the required practical. Now, what we do with flashcards, you should remember, is that we use them to do retrieval practice. The aim of this is not the making of this mind map or the flashcards themselves. What this is going to do is allow us to structure our revision. So with the flashcard, you read it, you turn it over, you try and recall the information that's on it, either by writing it out, saying it out loud to yourself, saying it out loud to someone else. Then you look back and see what you got right and what you missed out. You read it again, you try it again, and then you put it away for a few days and come back to it. That way, after a while, you'll be confident that you know everything you need to know about cells. Then you need to test that. Is that true? I can recall that information. Can I now use it in a 4 and a 6-mark question? You'll find those questions on the B1 everything slides and also on the B1 prep schedule, where there are questions down the side of the right-hand side that allow you to answer questions about these things. If, when you've made your flashcards, revised them, looked at the questions and the prep schedule, you are able to answer the questions in the prep schedule, then cells is done and you've revised that for now. You're still going to come back to it later, because remember, one of the things that we talked about as well is spaced practice, and we need to be able to do this today, next week, and next month, and next year. So then we move on a little bit, because these topics are all related. So the next one that you'll see down there is cell division. Now, it's helpful to revise things that are related to each other close together, because it makes it a lot easier. So in this, you need to know a definition of mitosis and possibly the cell cycle. And you also need to know what stem cells are, where we find them, and what we can use them for. Now, this is a favourite of the examiners for a 6-mark question. They like to ask about ethics. So when you know what they are, the pros and cons of the different ideas as to what might be able to happen with them, you need to look up a 6-mark question. Again, it's in that key stage 4 revision thing. But first thing to do is to look that it's all connected, to make flashcards, to use them for retrieval practice till you can remember the facts, and then try a question. So again, once you've gone through the prep schedule and any long answer questions that you could find in the key stage 4 revision folder under B1, long answer questions, there's 120 odd, then you would know that you've done cell division. Now, we might move this way, or we might go this way for our next topic, because up here we've got cells and we've talked about animal and plant. So what I'm going to put up here is another cells related topic rather than moving on, because that's transport. And that again goes together with lots of these things, because you need to know what diffusion is, what osmosis is, and what active transport is. Now, those themselves just need some definitions, but you also need to be able to talk about where they happen in an animal and a plant. Now, straight away, I can see over here that we have got some opportunities to link something together, because in a plant, we're going to be looking at root hair cells to quite a great degree when we're talking about osmosis, diffusion and active transport, because that's where plants take things in. We're also going to be mentioning blood when we talk about animals, because that's where things diffuse in and out, and also where osmosis goes in and out. We're also going to mention the intestines, and that's going to link down to something I'm going to put under here, and we're going to talk about the lungs, and that's going to link straight down to something over here. So we're starting to understand how these things link. Again, you're going to make flashcards, define, define, define with examples, and then look at specific examples over here. Again, this makes for a good 6-mark question. And again, you need to go and look at the prep schedule and the Key Stage 4 revision folder and try a long answer question and some short answers before you'll say you're done there. So now I'm going to start moving down this way, things that go together. So over here, I'm going to look at enzymes and digestion. Now, this is also part of transport, but I'm moving it down here because we're going to run human biology along the bottom. Okay, so the first thing you have to know is the parts of the digestive system. That's a straightforward learning it on a flashcard and being able to identify where they are. The examiners are never ever going to ask you to actually draw out a digestive system. They're going to ask you to label one that already exists or say what different bits of it are for. So remember, you need to have functions as well as parts. And then we're going to talk about enzymes. Now, there's lots of things we're going to talk about with enzymes. Whoops, I just can't spell. We're going to have to look at the factors that affect them. We're going to have to look at the lock and key mechanism as to how they work. And we're also going to have to talk about the fact that they are biological, I have to remember how to spell, catalysts. And you're going to have to know what that means. Okay, but on top of that, we've got 2 required practicals here. We've got the food tests required practical. Now, this is a nice easy one. I've even seen an 8-mark question on this. You just have to know what they are and what the test is. So this is a straightforward flashcard piece of work. This is a nice, easy bit of revision. You must memorise them because otherwise you're throwing easy marks away. And then we've got the required practical that is enzymes in different pHs. Okay, so we had enzymes and we changed the pH. You need to know the method and you need to be able to explain the results. Okay, now if you go and look through the slides on enzymes and digestion and you read the method or you watch the free science lessons on .com on this, that will make perfect sense. So now you need to go back, watch the freesciencelessons.com videos. I would do that for everything. Then make yourself some flashcards. Then again, you need to test yourself. And only if you're able to answer the questions on the prep schedule and in the Key Stage 4 revision folder can you say, I'm done on that. Okay. I'm now going to move on across the bottom. I'm going to do some more human biology. But what I'm going to do is stop for now. So this is the first half of this topic. I'm going to make another video for next week that talks about the second half. And I'm going to talk about where you should be with this if you started doing some revision. So what I suggest you do now is that you stop this video and you get or make yourself some flashcards. You can make them by cutting that up. And start with one topic. Practice revising one topic. So you're going to go into making some flashcards and using those to test yourselves. I'm going to show you how to do that now.
Hi, Year 10. So what you've just looked at is how I started to set out the beginnings of my revision on B1. Now, this exact technique is what you should also be using for C1, P1, C2, and so on. Firstly, be absolutely clear on everything that is in the topic. Best place to do that is either on a tick list or in the prep schedule for that topic, and make sure that you've got that. What you'll also have found is that I've reshared with you this folder. Now, the whole of Year 10 have had it before, but it's called Key Stage 4 Science for Students. And if you go into that, what you should then discover is, let me just move that over so we're looking at the whole thing, that you've got 6 markers, past papers and mark scheme, revision sheets, tick lists and slides. So I was talking about slides just now, so if I open that up, we've got in there, we should have got C1 everything, there it is, B1 everything, and so on. So they are things for you to start with. So once you've done that, you could then get a look at a tick list, and you could make sure that you've covered absolutely everything that is in that topic. So only once you have made your revision slides and you think I now know how to do this topic. The next thing that you need to look at are some short answer questions. Now, the short answer questions you find on these slides. So if you go into C1 or B1, what you will find is some 1, 2, 3 mark questions for you to try. When you're absolutely confident that you can recall everything, you can remember the facts, and that you can answer those short questions, then you can try these 6 markers. So if we go in here, there are 6 markers for everything. So let's have a little look at B1 that we were looking at just now. So you feel confident that you revised cells and you are able to talk about different things there. Now, there's one down here that I talked about. So I said prokaryotic and eukaryotic. So down here, we've got these 2 here. Now, if I just highlight those so that you can see which ones I'm talking about, these are both 6 mark questions. So this was describe the similarities and differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. So we've got 2 types of cells and we've got 2 things to say about them, adding up to 6 marks. Now that's a bit of a gift of a 6 mark question because it just requires you to remember things, but also to be very careful that you follow those instructions. The next one is compare. Now remember I said in science questions, compare will always mean the same thing. Say what's the same and say what's different. So up here they broke compare down for you. But this is about plant and animal cells. Now as a 6 mark question, you can't just write out 6 words. You're going to need to describe quite carefully about the functions. So the next thing you would do, so you've made a mind map. You're sure that you know where everything is, what the required practicals you did. I'm going to do that for each topic and post them up here week by week, so breaking them in half. Then you've gone through and made flashcards, so you can recall all of those facts. You've tested some of those facts using short questions. Then you've tried some 6 mark questions. Now you're ready to do the last part. If you have done all of that for a whole topic, then you get a past paper. And what you do is you test yourself. You find the past paper that you need. You do it either online, you can do it online and write it out, or you print it out. You give yourself an hour and a quarter, you try and answer those questions, and then you use the mark scheme to see how you think you did. That is you getting to the end of that piece of revision. This bit where you take the paper should be happening just in front of a test. That's the point that you should get to for each of these. Now, obviously, if you're revising for all 6 at once, they need to be overlapping so that they're all happening at the same time. So what I want you to do from this is to go away and revise cells, cell division, transport, and enzymes. To spend some time making those flashcards, answering those questions. And then what I'm going to do when I make the next video is set you some short questions to try and answer to test that revision for you. Okay, so that's quite a lot that I've given you to do. I'm aware this has been a really long video, but I've been explaining how things work, and hopefully in the second part, when I put up some more, we can move forward for that revision and put you in the best possible place for year 11. Because let's remember, we have actually covered the huge majority of our science content. Most of it finished bar 1 topic out of 6 before we went into lockdown. So now what we're doing is just getting ourselves in the right place to begin year 11. So get revising and good luck.